nature is cruel. If you go out and you see whatever species against another species, I mean, even two roebucks fighting, they will fight to the death. It's about survival of the fittest. But saying that, it's all about purpose. So, pulling the trigger on something, it has to have purpose in my eyes. If you're managing it, obviously foxes you can't eat, but you're reducing the number of foxes so that another species will thrive more, whether it's curlews, ducks, pheasants, deer, whatever it is, it's like a fact of management. But then when you've got the species that you can eat, a deer, pheasant, pigeon, it's reducing the numbers to get the levels of the numbers right. But then you've got something that actually is very good for you, tasty, and it gives you a purpose, a meaningful of what you've just actually done.
Paul, welcome to the show.
Morning, Joe.
So when researching you, Paul, 3 key traits came up. It was kickboxing, hunting, and being big on YouTube, which leads me to the obvious conclusion that you must be Britain's version of Joe Rogan.
I wish. I don't know. I suppose I am in some ways, in a lot smaller scale. Fieldsports in the UK is such a niche, small market. Kickboxing again is a niche, small sport. So I picked the things that are slightly, if I was doing golf or another sport, I'll be very wealthy and I'll probably have a massive following. But in the niche bits I've been involved in, I've got a good following.
Do you try and keep the two worlds between kickboxing and field sports separate? Because you're at a very high level in both multiple world champion in kickboxing and award-winning gamekeeping. So do you feel as though you're a double agent living double lives, or can they merge together?
Good question, actually. I do keep them separate because not just because of it's quite nice to, when you finish work, to do something totally separate and get your mind off your stressful day job, but also because I've been instructor for 25 years. Not everybody likes field sports, so it's quite nice to keep them separate the best you can. As it's gone on in later years, obviously you've got more exposure, and basically everybody seems to know now, and I've accepted it. So probably all the years I word about it, it's sort of like, it's not actually a problem.
It's interesting you said it's nice to do something after work, but having known a couple of gamekeepers quite well, it's hard to determine when work finishes because it's not exactly like you clock off at 5 and that's you done until 9 the next day. It's quite an all-consuming job.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's why it's been really good for my sport in my early years, because the stamina, a lot of the competition stuff was at night or in the evening. And as gamekeepers, that they basically work to late hours. So it's always been great for that. But I've been gone training and come back and then carried on with work for a couple of 3 hours. So it's been an interesting time.
Although surely, and you mentioned stamina and that's a given, but you're on your feet all day. You're walking or you're bashing through stuff or you're managing difficult mental gymnastics of which clients come in and when, and balancing all sorts of financial spreadsheets, etc. So surely the last thing you want to do is then go roll around on a mat with someone else for an hour or two kickboxing.
Yeah, it's quite funny. I was talking to somebody the other day about discipline of training, and they said, I just can't get myself to the gym, and I find it hard unless I got a goal. Whatever I'm doing, I need a target, a goal, and if I got a goal of a competition or whatever it is, not a problem. I mean, you go that extra mile, you dig deep and get on with it, and I think that's true to say in my business as well. I have goals and targets, and they're quite well driven. If I don't have those goals and targets, I tend to sort of just get on with it gently. So yeah, I think it is important.
I was speaking to a gamekeeper. I was having dinner with him about a few months ago, and he is late 40s. He's done it since he was 17. And we were talking about the physical toll of the job. And he's done everything. He's been gamekeeping birds, but then he did a lot of time as a ghillie. And he says his knees are just screwed from just dragging stags off a hill for years on end. And then I was thinking, I wonder what Paul does, because knees are quite important in kickboxing and also his job in field sports. So, I mean, is there like an intense physio regime that you're going through, or is it just blinkers on and keep going?
Um, Again, I've been so lucky in my kickboxing career, the martial arts side of things. I've not had major injuries. Touch wood. It's you know an odd split lip, black eye, uh, a broken finger or something, but no major, broken bones. An odd something, but nothing major. Uh, and I know a lot of physios, and I've done every type of physio you could think of. I've done, you know, chiropractors, physio, bands, you name it, I've done it. I still go back to the same Thai lady, which actually does a traditional Thai boxing massage, which is quite rough, not very nice to be fair, but it actually works really well. Even if I got like a ripped neck or something, yeah. So that's been brilliant. But as for this like work side of things, it is a dangerous job. You know, you know, you're around firearms and shotguns. That's not actually the problem. It's actually quad bikes, trailers, trees, ditches, slippy banks. And it sounds silly, oh, slippy bank, that's no big deal. But when you're carrying a 25k bag of pellets or food or corn or whatever, or water containers, yeah, it is a problem. I've had quite a few injuries through this like work more than anything. But I think with the training has actually helped me. So my physical, I'm getting older now, but I'm still physically strong. I do the kickboxing, I do this like gym work, and it keeps you like your core strength there, which actually helps the job.
It's interesting you talking about slippy banks there, because the same gamekeeper who says his knees have blown up was he slipped. He's had no injuries in his life, and he suddenly slipped on a bank,
Yeah,
and he did his hip, and he was out for 6 months. Just
yeah,
like couldn't do anything because he did all sorts of damage to his hip.
yeah,
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 I guess it's when you switch off and you're
yeah.
just walking somewhere, or your mind's in somewhere else where you put the trailer onto the quad and then you trapped your finger and then you broke your finger, sort of thing.
Exactly. And when you're pressured, rushed, tired, that's when classic accidents happen. And yeah, I mean it's a grueling job on the body. If you're still doing it manually. My father, he got through two sets of hips just through the later part of his life by just carried on working hard, and it just like basically ground him down. So if he would have not done the job, he would have probably lasted that hip probably for the rest of his time. So it just goes to show what's like demanding it is on the body.
Your father was also a gamekeeper, wasn't he?
Yes, yeah,
How over the decades has the role changed, do you think?
massively, absolutely massively. I hear stories of old, and he started off as a carpenter gamekeeper on an estate in Wiltshire, and they were doing broody hens, small clutches, but still releasing good numbers on the estate. Very traditional estate. Then he moved to Ireland, where it was like a semi-commercial estate, putting down a bit bigger numbers, and you know it was regarded a gamekeeper was just a staff member on an estate. You get a house with a job, and yeah, I think he was I can't remember exactly 2 and 6 months or whatever that is. I don't know what it is. It was some small amount. Um, and he tells a story of like they couldn't afford a a turkey for Christmas dinner, so he caught a cock pheasant in a fen trap and plucked that off and had that for Christmas dinner. So times were quite hard back in the day of a gamekeeper, but as times evolved, it's more commercial. Um, and in general, the standard of living and support for countryside workers has gone, right up. And most gamekeepers now are on a good solid wage, good package, and if you love the job, it's an amazing job.
I was just thinking there about the working the land and just how brutal it is. So, country working, such as being a gamekeeper, etc. Then also the brutality of been in the ring kickboxing. So, when I lived in France when racing, we were bored as young guys get, and we went
Yeah,
out and we bought some boxing gloves.
yeah,
And on our rest days, we just set up a ring in the apartment, and we would just like clobber each other. And basically, having experienced very high heart rates of like 220 when racing, etc.
Yeah.
There's actually, I find, nothing that compares to knowing that you're just about to get absolutely leathered by someone and there's nothing you can do about it. So that's seriously brutal. But then also the management side, or the roles and responsibilities of the job in which you're in, are pretty brutal. And I just wondering what you thought on the modern divide of how we view nature. We see it as quite a bucolic and harmonious place, but a fox eating a rabbit is a pretty traumatic thing if you're actually there to hear it. You can hear the screeching of the rabbit as it's consumed. And I was wondering, on your point of view, because you're both brutal in your pursuits, be it hobbies, but brutal in your job as well, do you just see the world through different eyes than someone who lives in a town and and then never leaves the town, really? On the countryside, they see is dairy cows and green pastures.
You got your foot on brutal. Yeah, it's quite fun actually. It's personed as a combat sport. So kickboxing, MMA, or I mean MMA is actually pretty brutal to be fair. But kickboxing, boxing, those like stand-up combat sports are seen brutal, and it is brutal. You're being hit and you're trying to hit someone. So yeah, it is brutal, but it's not. It's you train to a certain level. You're put against somebody that's the same size, same weight, same ability to you to make it an even match. Whereas you go onto a rugby pitch, if you're 12 stone and then you're up against an 18 stone bloke and a 15 stone bloke and you're at the bottom of a ruck and they're ripping you apart, that is brutal. And you see the tackles on those guys now. That's what I see. I played one game of rugby in my life and that was brutal. Never did it again. So I think, yeah, and also I say about kickboxing, and probably a lot of martial artists will say, it's like chess. It's all calculated. You're being hit, but you're seeing the next move. It's the whole thing is calculated. And if you're not calculated, I believe you'll never be a champion, because it's all about seeing it. And I don't know if you've got this when you're competing at your top level. You actually see things in slow motion. And you get to a certain level, and actually talking about it now, my hair's standing up the back of the neck. That's how sort of like it's intense it is. And when you get to that level and you're in top fight condition, you'll be sparring and you'll see a lesser opponent and you can actually maneuver away from. You see these boxers moving or kickboxers moving away from the shots, and they see it in slow motion, 100%, and it is, in that level. Yeah, it's quite straight, like a Matrix-like scenario. But going back to like my job, I wouldn't say the job is brutal. I'd say the job itself is actually a managerial type role. Really, you're a manager of the countryside, so you're trying to keep the balance of, because unfortunately, it's a fact, we have too many people in the country. There's too many houses, too many roads, railway, and that itself is brutal on the countryside. Not just the greenery, but the animals that are trying to live between the greenery and get killed on the roads, and so on and so on. So trying to balance the nature to fit in with the modern world of humans is actually like a job that we have to do, whether it's deer, foxes, because too many of anything is a problem. So that's like a job of the gamekeeper, a groundsman, a vermin controller, or whatever they are. And yeah, it's if it's purposeful, it's never a problem. So people say, how could you shoot a deer? Because it's a beautiful animal. And you'll find anybody that shoots deer and manages deer, they're actually the most passionate person and love deer more than anybody else in the country. They got deer pictures on the wall. They go to deer conventions. They're just obsessed by deer, even though they shoot them. But they got the satisfaction of seeing deer in the wild. They manage the deer, and they have them like the strong herd coming through, and then they can see the genes coming through, and then they got some perfect meat which they harvest themselves at the end. So it's like seeing the whole process. So, and it's the same whether it's that, pheasants, foxes. It's like managing the whole scenario.
Because you deal with a lot of, say, deer control and pest control where you are, is there an element, as kind of you were saying, that it's a job in which someone just needs to take responsibility, and it might not be the most glorious job, but much like say a military sniper, it's someone's got to take out the key bad guys, and it's a responsibility in which you are willing to shoulder. Or do you see it differently?
I see it as a privilege, personally. The deer management is actually a privilege. You are the ambassador of that area to make it the best it can be, to keep the deer herd healthy, so that there is deer going forward. Because if it's not managed, obviously you got the problem with disease, inbreeding, and nature self balances. Period. We nearly had it with COVID, but it didn't quite hit. But it's true. I mean, nature will self balance. You get too many of any species, it will either get a predatory balance, or it will get a disease balance, normally a disease balance, or food starvation. So we are sort of like the ones balancing nature, basically, and trying to keep the balance correct. Some landowners want more deer, some landowners want less deer. So, and the government want a lot less deer. The fact of the matter is that the policies from the government, Natural England, all those guys, they want reduction of deer across the UK. It's a big policy going forward with the whole deer management sort of scenario.
Yep. Haven't they categorized deer as pests now?
Oh yeah, don't. I mean, the muntjac, they say that they're invasive species, and they are. They just want them eradicated. They're bringing in different licenses for. This is the government, not landowners. They have to apply and get the correct license to do, the management on that ground. So if they got a problem with, say, fallow deer, that they've been managed to a certain level, and then they're moving off the ground. They're only coming in at night. The government are actually issuing night licenses to try and cull them at night. Then you have to prove what damage they're doing, how many deer are there. So, and it's not just somebody just going out with a clipboard just counting it. It's actually done so professionally now. It's done with thermal drones, so you get a really spot on number, and then they'll do an impact survey, and so on and so on. So it's not just like somebody just plucking figures out of the sky. It's done so professionally and well done.
Because you're dealing with sort of death on quite a large scale, both with deer, pests, pheasants, etc., do you feel as though you become desensitized to it? Because the sound and sight, say, of a pheasant crashing to the earth, or the shock that a deer will receive when a bullet hits it, can be quite affronting if it was, say, your first time. Is that just nature in your eyes? Is that just part of the job? It can be quite shocking for someone. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, nature is cruel. Fact of the matter, if you go out and you see, you know, you know, whatever species against another species. I mean, even two roebucks fighting, they will fight to the death. It's about survival of the fittest. But saying that, it's all about purpose. So pulling the trigger on something, it has to have purpose in my eyes. If you're managing it, obviously foxes you can't eat, but you're reducing the number of foxes so that another species will thrive more. Whether it's curlews, ducks, pheasants, deer, whatever it is, it's just like a fact of management. But then when you got the species that you can eat, like a deer, pheasant, pigeon, it's reducing the numbers to get the levels of the numbers right. But then you've got something that actually is very good for you, tasty, and it gives you a purpose, a meaningful of what you just actually done. So yeah, it's not a problem. It's not a problem in my eyes.
Interesting you mentioned the word tasty there. I'm sure you're at the forefront of the big push at the moment for people to eat more wild meat. So, encouraging the population to eat pheasant and venison are two examples. But what about the uphill battle that pheasant just doesn't taste as good as chicken and venison doesn't taste as good as beef?
Um, it's back to the same old thing. I've never been a big lover of pheasant, to be honest. It goes dry and a bit like gamey and stuff. So we have a chef on the pheasant shoot, and he actually makes a fantastic uh, pheasant breast Kiev, breadcrumbs, garlic, and that is absolutely fantastic. And then he does different like It's like Asian type, sort of like spices with, and others like Levinses, and again, that's absolutely fantastic. Venison is back to the same old scenario. It's where it's come from, what it is, and how it's harvested. You know, if you get a stag in the full rut, you know, and it can be very strong. You want to pick how you cook it. Yeah. Whereas you get a prime fallow fallow early season, or a Chinese water deer, then you know it is like, you know, perfect eating. So sauce, that's all it is.
Masks the meat flavor.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, if you actually can find out where, what, and how where it come from, that helps a lot. Food miles is massive, I think, with game. You know, the closer you can get it from where you live, the better, because it just hasn't had that time to become gamey. So unless you like the game taste, obviously. But yeah, that's the problem with lots of people that eat game or try to eat game. They have some old bit of venison or old bit of pheasant that's been hung for too long, and it becomes too strong and too gamey, which I don't particularly like either. So
You mentioned, you have a chef who works on the shoot.
yeah.
Could you sort of give a bit of context as to the operation in which you're running? How many acres are you on? And obviously, you offer all different sorts of sporting options. But obviously, as far as I'm aware, you're not, an aristocratic landowner. So how are you able to have a sporting side of things?
So basically, I rent the sporting rights from an estate, and the estate basically uh, leases this on it can be, depending on what estate you're on, could be yearly, 3 yearly, 5 yearly, and you take the sporting rights. That gives you, depending on what the agreement is, could be deer and game birds, ducks. It's like the management and to run it's like a shoot on there, and it could be anything from a small syndicate shoot of 10 people getting together and doing it as a DIY, or it could be a slightly more commercial where you put down a few more birds, have a gamekeeper, have a basically employ a gamekeeper, have helpers, and so do more slightly bigger days. So we do in the middle. We cover the whole range. We do everything from a walked up day to a slightly bigger day, just because it balances the books. But we tend to it's really nice to see the different ends of the shooting fraternity, because it's just, you meet so many different people from different walks of life, and yeah, it's rewarding and it's great for contacts.
So how big of a, in terms of acreage, how big of an operation are you working on?
I downscaled it a little bit actually. I was doing one stage. I was doing two quite large shoots, and this year I've changed a few things, and I've just got one shoot now. We're doing slightly less days, which is great for me because I've got a bit of my life back, because it tends to overtake your whole life basically. When you're on a shoot day, it's preparation, the day, and then obviously afterwards. So we're down to one estate. We do about 25 days, a mix of pheasants and some duck, a few partridges, and yeah, it's got a syndicate. We have a few other teams that I've known for years that come from all in one foreign team come from Germany, but they come and they do a day's game shooting, and then they go stalking as well. So it's quite a good mix.
You mentioned it's all consuming. I was just thinking, surely pursuing kickboxing to the extent that you have, and then having the job that you have, it must be quite hard, sort of socially or personally, to maintain any sort of relationship.
Well, do you know what? I would always say, give a busy man a job and it'll be done. And it is. I mean, it's amazing. All it is just basically planning. And you'll be amazed. I go to loads of events. I do my media stuff. I go abroad a lot for the media stuff. We wait for 2 to 7 days. But again, preparation, planning, having good people around you to help you, and yeah, that's probably the key to it. But I do go out, and I do, you know, socialise as well.
But it must be quite a pressurizing environment, either stepping into the ring or needing to deliver X amount of birds on a day, or X deer. That clients which are flown in from Germany have paid for and expect? Do your shoulders not stoop a lot of the times with the pressure in which they're under?
No, pressure's good, isn't it? Pressure for tires. Yeah, I mean, it's some people thrive and some people dive. It literally is. I mean, I think as a sports person, as you probably appreciate, you can tend to probably put too much pressure on yourself, and you want to. There's only one. In my eyes, there's only one place in a competition, even in a tournament. If you did in tournaments where you like a knockout over 3 or 4 days, second or third place, it'd be amazing to do it, but it's not really achievement. There's only one place, and that's first. So yeah, I mean, there is pressure, but I think I quite like, back to the same old thing. It's pressure, but when you get to the end goal, those people are happy, so it's very rewarding in itself. And yeah, I think pressure's a bit good. It's good for you.
Pressure's the tires. That's so good.
All up here,
with
see.
With these continual goals, is there any ever moments of self-appreciation or self-reflection, or is it just a continual treadmill of one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next?
Do you know what? You've hit the nail on the head, and I don't sit back and appreciate what I've done, and it is probably my biggest fault. My target is to get there, and when I got there, it's a bit of a disappointment. My biggest disappointment was when I won the World Championships the first time. I won it. I was elated. I was like, I cried in the ring. Absolutely, not cried, but like, I was emotionally choked. And we were out for a meal that night, celebrating, and it suddenly dawned on me: I got no target. I got no goal anymore. And I was like, next morning I woke up and I was devastated. I thought, because I obviously built up. I did all the local fights. I did the British, the European. I went to the Worlds once, lost it, so it was a big thing to get my title shot again, and then won it. And yeah, like I say, biggest anticlimax in my life. But I said to myself, I'm not real world champion until I won it again. So when I won it again, I thought, right, I'm not real world champion until I won it 3 times. So I won it again. I thought, right, I'm not really world champion until I win it in 2 weights. So I went to another weight. I thought, right, I'm not world champion until I go and fight a different
I'm
organisation.
sensing a theme here.
Yeah, a different organisation, amalgamate 2 titles. And if I go to Russia or Ukraine, fight over there, that's undone. That's not a thing to be done. So I went and did that and won it again. I thought, okay, well, I can't really do that much more. So, and whatever. Concentrate on work a bit more. But yeah, it's a bit of a thing with work. I love to be the best at what I can do. And people say you're competitive. I am competitive, but I'm competitive with myself. So I'm not one of those stupid competitive people that has to win everything. But if I choose a target, I will be competitive to the top level on that best I can be. So yeah.
There's a bit of a cliche that says the man who loves walking will walk farther than the man who loves a destination. Are you too destination orientated, do you think? Or is that the driver which has enabled you to achieve what you have?
It's definitely allowed me to achieve what I've done. But as I've got older, I'm looking at the journey more, I'd say. And I am now starting to appreciate and think, God, can't believe I've done that this week or this year, or I've set myself new targets. I've set up a YouTube channel myself and trying to get that going. Don't want to be the best at it. I just want to be good and recognised. I'm also writing a book on Chinese water deer. Just because.
Oh man, I was going to ask. I was going to say, surely there's a book in here somewhere.
Yeah. Well, it's actually on Chinese water because it's known. It's like renowned for knowing the species really well. And I don't want it just to be about facts. I want it to be about the story of them as well. I've been managed them for 25 years and what I've seen, how it's changed. And again, it's a target for me. I never thought I'd write a book. I've done stuff in magazines and stuff. 3-page article. But actually writing a book is, yeah, we're getting there slowly. But yeah, hopefully next year it'll be out.
So what are you sort of doing now this sort of year on the estate? So what would be, for example, like a typical day in the life if you're training kickboxing, but then also it's quite busy sort of late spring, summer in preparation for the season?
Yeah, so at the moment we've got on the estates we've got game crops are being planted. Obviously a late year this year with the being so dry. I got a guy in today for 2 days, pond recreation, doing the ponds, making some nice banks for the ducks, wildfowl on the sides, and also a lot of trees fell in the water. Again, this is the stuff that people don't realise. The money that goes into this. A digger driver for 2 days with a big 16-ton, digger. Yeah, sorting that out. Then we've got a guy at the moment redoing the pheasant pens. He's at the moment doing the pheasant pens. We'll do a bit of ride clearance over the next couple of days, again to let a bit of light into the rides, clean the rides up, and then vermin control and deer control.
Where's
So
training then? And is it in the evenings
yeah,
or
at the moment
mornings?
it's in the evenings now. I've never trained in the morning. Never been a very good on training in the morning. I train in the evenings. So tonight, finish probably about 5:30, 6. Have dinner and then go gym tonight. I think what's tonight? Wednesday, yeah. So Monday, Wednesdays is gym nights these days. Only doing one night kickboxing. On my earlier days, I don't know. I really don't know how I fitted it in. But in my early days, it, it was mad. So at one stage, I had 5 nights running kickboxing. I had 3 separate clubs. I had instructors running those clubs for me as well. And then we'd be competing every other weekend with students or myself. And then there'd be a major competition, probably once every 2 to 3 months. And then I would be doing 30 shoot days. I was actually that early stage. I was actually working for somebody, and then the deer management as well. So yeah.
Would you recommend gamekeeping to someone young who was looking into it? Because I was having a conversation recently. It's actually on the beta bus, and he was quite keen to get into gamekeeping, but then someone had warned him off it, saying it's just not what it used to be.
Oh dear, it's a good question because the industry's changed a lot. There's a lot of pressure from government stroke people that don't want game shooting or large numbers of birds down on ground. People that just don't like game shooting, pheasant shooting. They think it's the elite sport, which if they actually come to the shoot, they'd find that there's such a wide variety of people that actually shoot, and yeah, from the next door neighbour to somebody in Parliament. So it, yeah, I mean it's a difficult one because it's going to change a lot. It's going to change a lot in the next 5 years, but there will always be people that need to manage the countryside, especially on managing vermin or deer species. So there will always be somebody for that, and the states won't manage themselves. So yeah, and the reason why a lot of shoots do keep estates and shooting going is to employ somebody that will manage the estate from the fly tipping, the clearing the rides, planting some trees, vermin control, security, all these things, and then they have a pheasant shoot as well, which basically they can sell some days, pay his wages or her wages. There you go. So yeah, it's a circle.
There's a real move within the industry to go, and I wonder from your point of view just how authentic a push this is, or if it's just talk, but to go away from the high bird, high driven days to more walked up days, because it's more fun, it's more organic, it's more natural, as it were. And there's a lot of big sort of on the internet, for example, big names really pushing, or anytime they do a walked up day, like, oh, this is the most fun day ever. Is that reflective in the amount of people booking through you? There is more of a demand for those sorts of days, or has it not really changed?
No, the same as any sport. There's trends. The trends that come through. There's high bird shoots and there's mid-country shoots and there's lowland shoots. And there is a diverse type of shooting out there, whether it's just pure duck days, whether it's walked up, small driven syndicate, the bigger days. Remember the bigger days on a say a state that's doing 20 to 30 days, those 2 or 3 bigger days, that pays for a lot of their infrastructure, the staff. So they might need those bigger days because that helps them be able to put the smaller days on. You've got to remember from 20 years ago how much guns and cartridges have come on. You know, the old days of, or probably before that, the old days of shooting an English partridge coming over a hedgerow with a Purdy or a Holland, and having a big pattern, shooting it with impact 7s or 6s. You know, you try and take that similar gun up to Wales to shoot a high bird shoot up there, you're going to be struggling. Whereas they're shooting 32-inch barrel, full and full with 42-gram 3s and 4s. You've got the firepower to actually try and cope with what they're delivering. All I say is not for everybody. Everyone probably has to try it. I found that a lot of people do like to try it, but they do love their local shoots where they can consistently hit stuff. That's what I found. And not everything, but it's more of a 1 in 3 rather than a 1 in 10. So it's, you know, I find that quite more recently. But them shoots are thriving and they're doing well. You know, if it's done properly, the game's being used and putting money back into the system, then, you know, it's all good.
Whenever you're out, you have a couple loyal companions by your side in the form of Cocker Spaniels. Now, what we have in common is that we both have red Cocker Spaniels. So, of all because you're doing so many different things, people would deem that a Cocker is quite specialist. But you've gone out tracking with yours, your walked up days, driven days. You've done the full work to that. And I was curious as a fellow Cocker advocate as to why you chose the breed.
So I started off with a spaniel, Springer Spaniel, and that was good. And then my father actually had Cocker Spaniels, and he gave me one of the puppies, and she's a brilliant dog, did everything, and they are so engaging, as you know. All they want to do is be with you, and yeah, for a friend and a companion, I would say a Cocker Spaniel. Are sort of like, but they're so bloody annoying because they just round your feet, they knock you out. You have a cup of tea, they knock it over, and that's no matter what age they are. They never learn the good side of it. And he'd always jump in the front of the truck, and they'd jump in the front of the truck. So we've never done that before. Why are you going to do that with dirty feet? But it's like a lovable, yeah, a lovable rogue, aren't they? But yeah, like you say, amazingly, my cockers have done so many different scenarios, from like the driven days, walked up days, stands at the back. Obviously, I put the guns out and stand at the back, picking up. My old cocker, he won't go for a dead bird now. He only goes ones that are runners to pick those up. And then, like I say, I shouldn't do, but I've used them on tracking 1 or 2 deer. Yeah, so they do the full work.
Why do you say that you shouldn't do? Surely the nose that they have.
Yeah, but the trouble is when you're trying to use them for many different like things, if you start using them on deer, when you got
trying to retrieve a Chinese water deer.
exactly when you're out on a shoot day and a Chinese water deer gets up, you know they got to know that it's a shoot day, not a deer day. So they got to know not to chase after it. But luckily they're not chasers; they're basically more trackers, and but they will run after a wounded pheasant, definitely, and retrieve that. So yeah.
And do you think that versatility is just because they're around you all the time and they're coming with you everywhere that you go? Because one thing I've really noticed is that the ease of my dog has dramatically increased the more it's with me. So I take it to the office, it lies at my feet, and it's just bomb-proof dependability now when I take it out. And I was wondering on your take whether it's a case because they're with you all the time, they just kind of know what's up, and it's not really nothing novel about it, or is there some secret sauce training that you've done, Paul?
It's all top secret. No, it's exposure. I think is probably the best thing. You know, especially when you have got large number of birds. You know, I have chickens in the garden, which I expose them to when they're young, so they're not used to just chasing around. It's just a chicken, so they don't. You know, they never have a problem chasing chickens. There is a lot to do with breeding as well. My old spaniel line was more of a working, steady Cocker Spaniel. My latest one is a trialing line, which hot, very intelligent, very hot. Which I mean, as in hot terminology, hot makes me say fast and just looking, thinking, looks up at the sky, watches, crows, everything. It's just really intelligent and just really keen to get on with stuff. So what I had to do with that one, and the trailer will help me for this. I have to dumb him down quite a lot, basically, because he's so clever. I had to bring him down and not be so willing to please and just chill out a little bit more. And I found, for me, it was exposure, like you say, with us all the time. He didn't have to chase everything. He'll see a dead deer. It's no big deal. He'll have deer jumping up in front of him. He'll see pheasants flying in front of him. It's like, okay. But he is pretty keen on pheasants. So, he needs a good 20 minutes just to settle down a little bit when we're first on the first early shoot days.
It's interesting. So you've obviously done the training yourself there. Surely a man as busy as you, would just be easier just to buy them and train.
Yeah, you're right. But the trouble is with that, you just lose that bond. It's really funny. My dogs, they live, breathe just for me. I mean, if I go out there and somebody's stroking them or family's there with them, I walk to the back field. They'll literally just stop whatever they're doing and follow me and go. Think, right, we're going. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. So yeah, you just lose that loyalty and bond. And I think also when you sort of like you train them to how you want to fit in with your life. Training's training with obviously what you want to do, but I think it's also to how you want, vehicles and getting into the back of the vehicle and just all these basic things of having a dog you don't really think about when you've done it through from the puppy. You've got to like train yourself almost. But having it partly trained would save a lot of time. Having a puppy about 12 months old would be a lot better as well. Nice to have the puppy stage, but then have the train stage. That in between stage is hard work, chewing and all the rest of it. Yeah. So
now another thing apart from Cocker Spaniels, which I'm passionate about, is 4x4s, mostly Land Rovers and Ineos Grenadiers. And I saw on an article as an interviewing you, there was an Ineos towing the gun bus. Is that yours, or was that just like a press car, or what?
Yeah, that was a sponsorship for a month or so, just for me to try it. Yeah, it was good. It was a petrol, I think, petrol whatever. It was pokey. Great car for estate use. It's quite a small cab, but for estate use and having a car to do that type of thing, it was actually really good.
But there's the reason why Childerley Sporting hasn't put in an order of 3 or whatever.
Yeah, no,
come on.
It's just practicality, price tag for what it is. It's very basic inside. It's not very comfortable. If you're driving to Scotland and it, you'll be getting out every hour because it's just not, that's the fact of it. But practicality, it was quite good. I drive. I got the workhorse is the Toyota Hilux manual 2 litre, so that's 2.5 whatever it is. And then I got a couple of Ford Rangers, just to. One's a bit more a basic one, and one's a bit more pimped up, if you call it. Yeah, and yeah, quad bikes are probably the most important thing on my my grounds. Just getting around and minimal sort of like disturbance and minimal damage to the area and the vehicle.
Why a quad bike over like an ATV buggy?
We got sand and they get punished on the front drive shafts, and they're about £1,000 a corner. So it's just financial and also a lot quicker. Yeah, it's a lot better for our shoot personally.
And what's the future then of Paul Childerley of Childerley Sporting? More world titles, different weight categories, more birds, more clients. What's the next goal, Paul, on the continual treadmill?
Um, Kickboxing side of things, I've still got the club going. My son's coming of age now. I've kept it running for him. 25 years I've been running that club, one particular club. So whether he wants to have it for a bit of pocket money and do it through his university years, possibly. And I've sort of I think I've got one more competition in me, maybe. I ripped off my rotator cuff last year, so I had a big operation on my shoulder, which I'm sort of getting there now. I can just about punch again. Taking a year, but I think I've probably got one more competition. Maybe, I don't know if I have or not. I retired basically. I retired after 3 world titles, and then I come back out to do the other ones, and I retired again, and I come out to fight a pro boxer, which was good, and then I finally come out to do the one in Russia, and I don't really need to do any more apart from just my own personal goal, but maybe I'd be silly if I do. Work, I don't know really. I want to get the YouTube thing going more, and I want to write this book. That's the 2 little like close goals. And probably what you touched on earlier, maybe enjoy the journey a bit more, because at the moment, or have been for the last probably 10 years, I just basically head down and I don't take time to look at what I've achieved or what I've done. So it's maybe a bit more appreciation.
What a positive note to end on. Paul, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.
That pleasure. Thank you.